I gotta tell you a story.
Yeah.
Okay, so the beginning of my getting into synthesis is with you guys.
Really?
Yes.
No shit.
So watching videos of the music easel and other Buchla stuff on YouTube and just being like, how can these sounds exist?
Yeah, yeah.
But I couldn't afford it. It was between, do I get a music easel or do I buy a van?
Sure, sure.
I bought the van.
Because you're from Philly, and when you're from Philly, you play in some sort of noise projects, I'm guessing?
No.
So the idea with Ziggy is it is sort of a Buchla for the everyman. So it starts with a complex oscillator and a modulation oscillator, characteristically Buchla, right? So if I just play, turn off my arpeggiator, right? I start with the complex oscillator, right? I have a couple wave shapes here, and I have continuous wave shaping. I have a timbre control for wave folding that we know and love from the 208C. And then I have a modulation oscillator. So I bring up the modulation amount, and then I'll start out an amplitude modulation in the low end, right? So I just have some sort of muddy modulation down there. But if I go into the high range, now we're in that sort of characteristic like Buchla, we're adding tonal content, timbral content to a complex oscillator instead of, like in subtractive synthesis, sending a complex waveform through a filter to take stuff out of it. So then we have, switched into FM. So we get really just like crazy crunchy FM sounds, but we can also do like sort of musical sounds. So let's get an arpeggiation going. The hold on there. And then right now I do have some stereo delay going on, some ping pong. So one thing to note about this, it is a totally analog instrument until you get to the digital stereo effects, and the effects dry wet is an analog voltage divider circuit. So when this is turned all the way down, it is true analog signal path right to the outputs. I know a lot of people ask about that, it's important to people. So bring in some of that, and then sort of let's play with the oscillators. And then let's bring in some modulation. So you have, on here, you have a low pass gate. And in order to make this thing, available in Europe, the UK, Rojas, they don't like Vactrols. So what we did is we came up with a way of doing a low pass gate that's digitally controlled. Just like all the parameters on here, everything's digitally controlled, can be addressed with CC, so you can MIDI it to your heart's content. And then we did envelope shapes rather than a traditional ADSR that allowed us to condense things down while still retaining a lot of power. So if I bring down the tempo on here, I have some immediately usable envelope shapes. And it's just like, instantly like kind of cool Berlin school, like,
Yeah.
Really delayed out, like ostinato going on. We can play with our modulation here, right? But there's also like very characteristically Buchla sounds in here.
You can save presets, yeah?
Yes, so another big thing with Ziggy is we want it to be really approachable for somebody who's like, well, the music easel, too many patch cables. A couple of people have said to me over the course of this weekend, like, Buchla to me was a dark magic or a dark art that I didn't understand until I like really sat down with something. And there's somewhat of a learning curve with instruments like the music easel, like the 200E. And what we wanted to do is sort of eliminate that, make it so that, okay, I'm pulling up one of these preset programs, because we sort of call them programs because it's very important that we think of them as a jumping off point into more things. So if I recall this, I'm already in to some like very interesting ambient territory. And this sound actually showcases a really cool feature that we added to Ziggy, which is the frequency sliders of the oscillators are quantizable. So if I modulate this, you can, okay.
To different scales.
Exactly. So if I go in here, so right now we're just hearing the complex oscillator, and then I press and hold, and I go to Edit Fader Scale. Click into that, and I've quantized on, and it's just a normal pentatonic major scale. So what is modulating that? The cycler, right? The cycle is enabled here. So if I, right, so we can hear what we're doing immediately, and then here is the height of that cycle. So that controls obviously the height of where we are on the scale, right? And then we have the speed here, and we have a couple of different immediately usable shapes. We have the width control here. I mean, the screen is just like, it's a dream, because sometimes you're working on like the function generator on a Buchla, and you're like, what am I doing? You know?
Very visually not intuitive.
And then obviously, you know, we want to throw. And then if we bring in the so we're in like a really cool musical territory with that. And then of course, you know, you have to find some Buchla percussion in there, like, and then if I mess around with sort of frequency. So there's tons of fun, weird stuff in here, but it's really about musicality and like, okay, so how do we deliver on an instrument that like, it's Buchla at its core, its heart is Buchla, but you can integrate it into like, say you have a bunch of sequencers and you know, controllers, and then maybe some Eurorack modules, because we got the Eurorack CV gate and modulation inputs up top. Those are Eurorack scale, 1 volt per octave. And then, of course, multiple options for MIDI. It's just like, it's designed to be a Buchla where, like, okay, if you like patching everything up from scratch, which I do, Music Easel, 200E, those are incredible instruments for that. If you're somebody who's like, okay, I need a Buchla voice in my setup, in my live setup, in my studio, whatever, grab a Ziggy. Program your sounds that you need, throw them into programs, pull them up, one, boom, 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 and you're pulling up those Buchla sounds on the go or just like in the studio, and you're not messing around with a bunch of patch cables.
Yeah.
So that's Ziggy in a nutshell, basically.
Amazing. Yeah, man. Well, I'm in awe of what you guys have accomplished, and thank you for giving us this, because it means I can finally do it.
I appreciate that we were an inspiration to you getting started, and I hope we can continue to be so.